So we're gonna start by opening your kit if you purchased one. If you didn't, that's fine. Just make sure that you have all of the following items. So of course you wanna have a hand model or a practice hand. Then you wanna have a nail brush. I prefer a number 10 or a number 12 if you're a beginner, but it's up to you. I just prefer that. And then a nail file, a buffer, your acrylic liquid, your acrylic powder, primer, nail clipper, nail glue, and you also need like a dapping dish for your acrylic liquid, and a liquid dropper just to transfer your liquid into the jar. Of course, a tip box, polish for the end if you're gonna polish nails at the end. So we're gonna make use of an old buffer. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a cuticle pusher or something sharp with a sharp end, and then you're gonna poke 2 holes in it, one here and one here. The reason for this is gonna be used for your acrylic brush and your nail glue. So make sure when you're poking your hole, it's big enough to fit those 2 items. So after you have your 2 holes, you're gonna take your nail brush, stick it in one, and then your nail glue in the other. Okay, so nail glue. So when you first go to open it, you wanna make sure you click the top. That way all the glue goes down back into the bottle rather than being stuck at the tip. Okay, so when you go to cut it, you wanna make sure that you cut at a slant rather than straight across. So you don't want to cut it straight across. This is what you don't want to do, but you want to cut it at a slant. So this is what it should look like, down at a diagonal. So next up we have nail files. So when opening a new file, you want to make sure that you go around the sides, the outer edges, to take away all the sharp points so that you don't cut anything. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to make your acrylic brush last. First thing you want to do is make sure you have the right kind of paper towels. That way your brush will last and it doesn't get sticky or lumpy, or you don't find yourself wiping over old acrylic liquid over and over again and it won't absorb it. So make sure when you choose your paper towels, you choose quality, and I prefer Bounty. So next we're going to get into liquid to powder ratio. It's a common question when learning how to do nails as to whether or not the acrylic liquid on the powder is too wet or too dry. I prefer that it be wetter than drier, because if so, you can drain it or you can wait a few seconds to let it dry up. But if it's too dry, then it's not going to move. It's not going to do anything. So it's best to have the powder more wet than dry when learning. So you're going to take your acrylic liquid and your powder, and you're going to put it on the edge of your paper towel so that you'll have room to wipe. So you're going to start by fully saturating your brush. You want to make sure that you dip it all the way in and make sure it's fully saturated. Then you're going to wipe one side. If you wipe both sides off, then it's going to be too dry. You're going to drain all your liquid. So you make sure that you saturate it and you gently wipe one side. All right, so next up we're going to get into the tip box. Most tip boxes come, they're numbered 0 to 10, with 0 being the largest and 10 being the smallest. On most people, 0 through 2 is going to be their thumb. If you have someone who has smaller nail beds, a 3 might be their thumb, but for the most part, you're going to use 0 to 2 for thumbs. 3 through 5 are going to be used for the index, middle, and ring finger. Some people with smaller nail beds, again, you'll probably use a 6, but for the most part, you're going to use 3 through 5 for the middle finger or the index and the ring finger. Most of the time on everyone, their index finger and their ring finger is the same size, but you still want to check, but for the most part, those two are going to be the same. And then 7 through 10, you're going to use for pinkies. People with larger nail beds, you may have to use a 7, but for the most part, 7 through 10 may be used for pinkies. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to properly lay your acrylic. So I'm going to use a training hand. You can order these on Amazon or you can get it from the nail supply, your choice. But I like these training hands better than the hand that just stands up and doesn't move around or anything like that. This hand, you can move it, you can take these tips off and reuse them. It's just really convenient. I like this hand a lot. So if you're going to use a practice hand, I prefer you get these. Okay, so when I lay acrylic, I use a 2 to 3 ball method depending on the length of the nails. And so this hand, I didn't rough up the nail bed or anything like that because this is just an example. I want to show you how to lay it perfectly. And then the better you lay the acrylic, the easier it's going to be at the end. You won't have to do as much filing or anything like that. So make sure you saturate your brush fully and you gently swipe up the side. And then you're going to pick up your ball. And then you're going to place it right in the middle. After you place it, you're going to make sure you wipe off your brush. You're going to get it wet a little bit more. And then you're going to gently press down the sides as you bring it forward. Make sure you press down that way that the acrylic is actually adhering to the nail. You don't want to wipe it off because if you wipe it off, then you're just going to be removing the acrylic that you just placed. So make sure you're gently pressing down on each side when you lay it. This also will prevent lifting or anything like that. Okay, so you're gonna move on to your next ball. This ball doesn't have to be as big as the first one because you're getting closer to the cuticle. So you wanna make sure it's not bulky towards the cuticle. So you're gonna lay that down also, and you're gonna make sure you're blending and you don't see a line. And you're also pressing down on the sides as you lay the acrylic. If it feel like it's getting too dry, you just want to dip it back into your liquid and keep wiping. To get it really smooth. So for your last ball, this is for your cuticle area, so it doesn't have to be too large. And when you lay it down, you want to place it as close as possible to the cuticle, but far away as possible too, if that makes sense. Alright, so make sure you fully saturate your brush again and you gently wipe off one side. You're going to grab your powder, make sure it's fully saturated, and then you're going to place it on the nail. Make sure you're holding the nail at an angle downward, that way the powder can move down with gravity. And after you're applying your acrylic, you're making sure you're pressing down, pressing the acrylic into the nail to make sure that it's adhering fully. If you try to just go ahead and place it and wipe it all down, then you're going to wipe all the acrylic off. So you want to make sure when you place it, you're pressing it into the nail. You're just going to keep doing this till you get it nice and smooth. And as you can see, I'm backing it back up onto the nail rather than wiping it off. I'm making sure it all stays. Then you're going to get your next ball. You're going to place it right in the middle. This is the stress point. So again, you want to make sure you're pressing down, pressing the acrylic right onto the nail. And then moving on to your third ball, that's going to be closer to the cuticle. So remember, you want to place it as close as possible to the cuticle, but as far away as possible too. So you don't want it to be on the skin, but you don't want it to be too far away where it looks like your client needs a fill-in right away. So make sure that you're pressing it in. Alrighty, and again, when you turn it to the side, you're going to see all your flaws. You're going to see whether you have big humps or you have dips. If you have dips, then you know you need to add more acrylic. If you have too big of a lump, then you know that it's too thick. So if you turn it to the side, then you'll be able to see all of your flaws. So you see how in this area, this is a stress point. You want to make sure you have an apex, which is like it'll be thicker in this area. That way it'll prevent breaking or anything like that. But you can see it's smooth and straight down. If you see any dips or large humps, then you will know like whether or not there's too much acrylic or too little acrylic. But if you turn it to the side, you can see all of your flaws and you'll see exactly what you need to fix. So we're gonna start off with, you're gonna start by roughening the nail bed. So I use a drill. I use a sanding bit. So sanding bits come in fine, medium, or coarse. This one in particular is a medium sanding bit. I use this that way I'm not roughening up the nail too much or too little. All right, so if you don't have a drill, you can use a regular nail file, and you're just gonna take it and you're gonna go back and forth in that type of motion to roughen up the nail bed. Be sure that you're not being too rough because you don't wanna hurt your client. If it hurts, then you're being too rough. So you wanna make sure you're not doing that. So when you turn on your drill, you're gonna set it to a slow to medium speed. You don't want it going too fast because remember, you're still on your client's natural nail. So starting off, you're gonna pull your client's skin back. In this area, you're gonna make sure you pull it back, that way you don't hit their skin. So you're gonna just go around in a circular motion. Make sure you remove all the dead skin, all the cuticle. Again, you're gonna pull the skin back over here, and you're gonna go all around to make sure you're removing all of that cuticle out. If you don't remove all the dead skin, when you go to lay your acrylic, that's gonna cause your nails to pop off. It's not gonna stick right. So make sure you remove all the dead skin. And then once you get into the rest of the nail, you're just gonna drill in a diagonal motion. You're gonna drill in a diagonal motion. So make sure you're being very gentle. As you can see, I'm being very gentle. My client's not jumping, anything like that. And you can ask your client if it hurts or not, just so that you can, understand if you're being too aggressive or not. Okay, so we removed all the dead skin and we roughened up the nail bed, took all the shine off. So now we're gonna glue on the tip. So remember in the beginning, you opened your nail glue at a slant, right? The reason being is because we're gonna make sure you size the tip first and make sure it fits each side. So you opened your nail glue at a slant because when you go to glue it on, you're gonna have it turned towards you this way. That way you have full control. Okay, you're gonna just drop your glue in like that. All right, so after you glue on the tip, then you're gonna take your nail clipper. So I use this type of nail clipper to initially cut the nail, and then I'm gonna use the straight clipper that you're gonna get in your kit. I'm gonna use that when I cut the sides. So this client is gonna get coffin shape. So we're gonna go over that. So what length do you want?
Right there.
So you're gonna cut the nail to your client's desired length. And then you're gonna take your straight clippers and you're gonna cut the sides. These tips that I'm using are pro tips. They're already shaped, but I still go over them also. I still reshape them. I just use these just so that they're time efficient, or just because they're time efficient. So you're gonna take your clipper and you're gonna angle it at a diagonal. So you wanna make sure when you're doing coffin, you don't make them too skinny. You don't have it turned in too much, because then, you're gonna cut half the nail off. So make sure you just have it at a slight diagonal. So, and then you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. When you're doing coffin nails, it's better to cut less than more, because if you cut less, you can always go back and shape it and get it skinnier. But if you cut too much, then you're going to be stuck with a very skinny nail. So you're going to take your nail file and you're going to get into shaping. Always shape before you lay your acrylic. That way, when you go to, after you lay your acrylic, the nail is not too wide. If you lay your acrylic on a nail that's not shaped, then it's going to be very hard for you to achieve a nice, clean, perfect, narrow shape. Nobody likes wide nails. I mean, maybe a few people, but not really anybody likes wide nails. So you want to make sure that you shape the nail before you lay your acrylic. So when you get into shaping, you're going to make sure you have your nail file angled straight up. Whatever shape you want, however you hold your nail file, that's what you're going to do. Like, so if you hold the nail file straight, it's going to file straight. If you hold it at a slant, it's going to file in a slant. If you turn it while you're filing, you're going to end up with round nails. So you want to make sure, if you want the nail straight and crisp, that you hold the nail file just like that. So you're going to go back and forth. Make sure when you're doing this part that you don't file too hard. You're just going to be very gentle. As you can see, if I'm holding the nail file, I can swing it back and forth. You're going to be very gentle. You don't want to hold onto your nail file really tight, because then you're not going to be able to work and your fingers are going to cramp up. It's just going to be uncomfortable. So make sure that you're holding it very loose and you're filing very gently. It's going to get the job done. When you're doing this part, I want to make sure that you're filing to the shape that you actually want. Like, you want to make sure that you get the shape that you really, really want. Don't say, oh, I'll just file it a little bit and I'll come back to it after I lay the acrylic. No, file to the shape that you want, because when you lay your acrylic, it's still going to be a little wider. And also, after you lay your acrylic, you'll have less work to do if you already have the nail shaped. So after you file the nail, then you're going to take your sanding bit and you're just going to go over. I like to go over the area right here in between the free edge and the tip, just because it makes it smoother. And I'm gently doing this. That takes away that big thick hump right there. If you notice, I didn't drill the rest of the tip because that's just not necessary. Only part that's necessary to have the shine off really is the natural nail. All right, so next up, you're gonna get your primer. First, I like to get my liquid and powder out first before I get my primer. That way, everything's ready to go. All right, so me personally, I like to use Band-Aid first. This is just a dehydrator for the nail. You don't have to do this, but I just do it just, to make sure all the oil is off. All right, so now you're gonna get your primer. You wanna be sure not to get the primer on the skin because it burns. So you wanna try to make sure you're wiping it off so that it's not dripping everywhere. And then you're gonna make sure it's only on the natural nail. Natural nail only. All right, so now you're gonna get into laying your acrylic. So you're gonna remember, you saturate your brush fully. And then you're gonna wipe off the one side you're not using gently. And you're gonna grab a ball. I feel like that ball was too dry, so I'm just gonna grab another one. All right, so you're gonna place your ball right in between the free nail, the free edge, and the tip. And then remember, you're gonna hold the nail downward, and then you're gonna press in while pulling the acrylic down to the tip. Make sure you're pressing in so that the acrylic is adhering to the nail. And remember, I'm not wiping all the acrylic off the tip. I'm making sure I'm backing it back up so that I can build a nice nail. As you can see, I'm making sure it's very smooth. And I'm trying to lay it as perfect as possible. That way at the end, I won't have that much work to do. Okay, so then you're gonna take your second ball, and remember this is gonna be for the stress point. So you're gonna make sure that you're creating an apex. So for the last ball, this part is gonna be used towards the cuticles. So you wanna make sure that you don't get too big of a ball because you don't wanna have a big hump right here. But you wanna make sure you get as close as possible to the skin, but as far away as possible too, so you're not directly on, like, touching the skin. All right, so you're gonna place your ball there. And then again, I'm gonna press in to make sure the acrylic is adhering to the nail. Okay, so after you lay all your acrylic, then you're gonna get into filing the nail. So you wanna get a smooth surface. So I'm gonna use a bit. Most bits you can find their grit on the front. So I'm gonna use a fine one. So to get started, I'm gonna turn my drill on to a medium to high speed. You want it to be at a higher speed, that way that you're sure to get like a clean, smooth finish. All right, so before filing, you're gonna make sure you push the skin back. I always do this just to make sure just make sure I get off all the excess acrylic and I don't go over their skin. So again, you're gonna pull your client's skin back and then you're just gonna file around. Make sure you go all the way around the cuticle. That way you won't have any lifting, nothing won't be on the skin. You'll just have a nice, clean smile line around the cuticle. So after that, then you're gonna go all the way down, just back and forth. And when I'm doing this, I'm not pressing down really hard on the nail. I'm being very gentle, and I'm kind of keeping a rhythmatic motion. You wanna have a rhythm. You don't wanna be going back and forth like this all over the place. You want to make sure that you have a nice rhythm back and forth. That way it's even all the way through and there's no bumps or anything like that. You have a nice smooth finish. So as you can see, you have a nice clean smooth finish. So after you do that, then you're gonna go ahead, you're gonna file the nail again for a second time. Now this time, you're gonna make sure that you achieve the exact shape that you want. This is what counts the most. This is gonna be the finished product. Remember, I want it to be at a diagonal, but I want it to be straight. So you see, I'm filing straight. I don't have the file tilted this way or tilted down. I'm filing straight. Now, when you go over to the side here, in order to get that smooth, you're gonna take the file underneath and you're gonna lightly file. And you're gonna do the same on this side. And you're gonna keep filing until you get the perfect shape that you want. All right, to make sure that you're straight at the tip, you're gonna turn it this way, facing towards you, and then you're just gonna go back and forth, gently. I'm not pressing down hard or anything like that. I'm just being very gentle. Just making a straight edge. Make sure when you're doing nails that everything is gentle. You're being very gentle. If you're hurting your client, then that's a no-no. You don't want to hurt your client. So you make sure everything you do is very gentle and at ease. Alright, so yeah, smooth finish. Alright, so after that, after you get it shaped nice how you want it, then you're going to get your buffer. Okay, so now you're going to get into buffing. So you want to be sure not to use this sharp edge of the buffer towards the cuticle. You always want to make sure this purple side, the soft part, is this way towards the cuticle. And for the most part, you can take your file and you can file on the sides just to get the sharp edges off before you buff, so you don't cut your client. But so you're gonna take the finger, you're gonna hold the buffer like this, and you're gonna buff. You're gonna make sure you go down this way and down this way. That way that you get a nice smooth finish. And don't be scared. With the buffing, you can be a little more aggressive. You don't have to be gentle on this part because you want to make sure that you buff it to a nice smooth finish. It's not going to hurt your client. You can still ask them if it hurts just to be sure, but it's not going to hurt. Alrighty, and you can see you have a nice smooth finish. So after you go over all those steps, you're going to have your client wash their hands, and then you're going to be ready to add your top coat to finish. And now if you do a regular basic acrylic, you can use gel polish, but since she has colored acrylic, we don't need any color, so I'm just going to add a clear gel top coat. So make sure when you're about to polish, you only wipe off one side, the side that you're not going to use. The side that you're going to use for the nail, make sure there's polish still there on the nail, on the brush. If you wipe off both sides, you won't have any paint on the brush to polish onto the nail. So you polish, you want to start by the cuticle. Make sure you make it round around the cuticle, and then you're going to brush down. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You want to make sure you have a perfect smile line around the cuticle, and then you're going to brush down. So when doing this, just make sure that the polish is even all the way through. And then you're going to have them cured in the light for 60 seconds. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are more confident now in practicing and perfecting your craft. Be on the lookout for more videos soon, and feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. Again, I'm Tina, and thanks for watching.